Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and welcome to this episode of The Hypnotist, where today I'm joined with a guest, Garry Coles. I've known Garry for a couple of years now. We speak at the same conferences around the world. Garry, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. It's nice to actually get to talk to you outside of a conference.
Yeah, we're always normally chatting right outside kind of hotel conference areas. Give us a bit of an intro to you, Garry, because I know you as probably the world's leading specialist in a combination of hypnosis, but related to the field of oncology. But give us a bit of background on you and where your path led you to.
Okay. That is my specialisation, if you like, Hypno-Oncology, and that's hypnotic interventions for the cancer journey. And it sort of happened by accident in some ways, but seemed to be a natural path in another. And that was in my own life. I've gone through sort of cancer journeys with my mother, sadly passed away in her early 50s with lymphoma. My grandfather, I looked after him with esophageal cancer. He lived into his mid-90s, but so that wasn't such an issue. But again, I did go through that path with people. So seeing it from there. When I came into hypnotherapy, just after I qualified, just out of the blue, I had a phone call from the local hospital saying, "Oh, somebody's just told us you've qualified as a hypnotherapist. We used to have one at the hospital working with cancer patients. It's really effective. Would you like to come and help us out and donate some time to us?" And at that time, I was feeling a little bit mercenary. I thought, well, I've just qualified. I need some experience. I wandered to the hospital. They said, "Oh, we can get you 6 patients or 8 patients a day." And I thought, well, I'll stay for 2 or 3 weeks, get experience and disappear. It didn't quite work like that because now, nearly 19 years on, I'm still there. Admittedly, only half to 1 day a week now, but I am still there. So obviously, having been in a hospital environment for that amount of time, first of all, the hospital sent me on lots of cancer courses. So that got my knowledge through the roof, although I didn't realise at the time quite how much knowledge I had. Because I've been there that amount of time, I've seen several thousand cancer patients, so I know what works, what doesn't work. I've perfected approaches and techniques with them. But then it really changed a number of years ago, where I'm the sort of person, I'm a very scientific background. My origin, before I became a hypnotherapist, I was an IT consultant in the oil industry, so very logical, very mathematical, scientific background. I try and see hypnotherapy from that background as well. I want to see it taken more seriously by the medical fraternity, and the only way we're going to do that is scientifically evidencing things. So I had the chance a number of years ago to study clinical hypnosis academically. The University of West London at that time were offering a Master of Science degree in clinical hypnosis. It was a research master's, and I decided to make things really difficult for myself in that I decided I wanted to do medical research because of my hospital background. So the study I ended up doing was I did a study into pre-surgical hypnosis and the effects that had on the recovery quality in breast cancer operations. I was able to demonstrate that it did, and how and why, both physically and psychologically. And that's had an interesting knock-on effect actually coming throughout the years. Although they don't call it hypnosis, the Royal College of Anaesthetists now actually recommend pre-surgical hypnosis. So that's sort of vindicated in some way, although again they call it something different because I think they're frightened of the word hypnosis, but essentially that is what we're doing. We're using it more and more at my own hospital, and I work for the whole cancer journey. But the idea of getting the master's degree in clinical hypnosis opened up a lot of doors for me. First of all, you're taken far more seriously by the medical fraternity, and so on and so forth. Because of my research got out, a few people said to me, "Well, you ought to put a training course together to teach other hypnotherapists, doctors and psychologists how to work with cancer patients." At that time, I thought nobody's going to be interested. But I started getting more and more emails, and then I did a couple of podcasts, and then it really sort of started taking off when the first UK hypnotherapy conference was organised. They were advertising at the time, which made me laugh, that they had the top 30 hypnotherapists in the world coming to London for the weekend and giving mini lectures. And they asked whether I'd speak on the bill. So I thought, well, if I'm being advertised in the top 30 in the world, it's not going to harm my reputation, obviously. So I spoke there, and I obviously did okay, because we'll be speaking there again in November, and I've actually spoken at every UK HC conference since it started. So then, based on that, one that you know very well, Hypnothoughts Live, the biggest hypnosis conference in the world, I was then invited to go and speak there, and I'll be speaking there, I think, for the 7th time this July. And I'm also speaking in Chicago. I've done some stuff in Florida. I've got several booked already for next year, as well as online ones. And then I did give up to pressure, and I did put a training course together for hypnotherapists and doctors. And I've taught that all over the world, both online and in person. I've done it online to a couple of times to New Zealand and Australia. In the last couple of years, I've taught doctors in Belgium, psychologists in Bahrain, and hypnotherapists sort of everywhere. And now I've moved that on slightly, where we've now got a Hypno-Oncology script book. I now do monthly mentoring for hypnotherapists and doctors around the world, based more on oncology. And I'm still trying to get through. I've still got 3 chapters, which I have had for about a year to do, trying to do a Hypno-Oncology, more academic book for the doctors and the medical people. And hopefully, eventually, we'll then go down the road of more self-help stuff for people going through the cancer journey themselves.
Fantastic.
So
and
pretty
that's
much how I've got here.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey, and very well respected, highly regarded in the industry. And I think it's worth mentioning, just because people are going to see the word cancer and hypnosis in the same subject line and think, oh, okay, this is hypnosis to cure cancer, or that kind of stuff. And I think it's worth dispelling any myths or misconceptions you might run into, being the hypno-oncology guy.
Yeah, and there are some, and there's some that that really irritate me as well. Not so much in the UK. In the UK, where I'm based, we have the 1939 Cancer Act. And it's not geared to hypnotherapy, it's geared to a lot of treatments, if you like. But essentially, the 1939 Cancer Act says that unless you're an oncologist, a doctor, a surgeon, or so on, you're not allowed to advise on the treatment of cancer, you're not allowed to treat it, you're not allowed to assist with it, remedy it. And there's all sorts of words that you can't use in advertising and in actually working with cancer patients. So yes, we are not allowed to work with the cancer or treat the cancer. That is what it says in the 1939 Cancer Act. Unfortunately, around the world, I do see people that obviously aren't bound by that act. Particularly in America, I see people advertising that we can cure cancer with hypnosis. I've met somebody at a conference was saying that they worked with somebody 15 years ago with a particular type of cancer, and it went away, and they've just done it again 15 years later. Well, to me, that's not even enough to be a coincidence, let alone any evidence. And they're saying it's hypnotherapy, but what else are they doing? Are they saying the person's having no other treatment? I find that very unlikely. You do get spontaneous remissions. That is true. We don't know why that happens. But we're not allowed to work with the cancer itself. I advocate that we don't anyway, even in countries where we're allowed to, because to me there is no scientific evidence that shows that it does. However, there is an experimental area that we can get involved in which some people believe that may have an impact on the cancer. Another area I lecture in, it's a bit of a mouthful, is psychoneuroimmunology. And that is the scientific study of how feelings and emotions impact the immune system. And there is a lot of scientific evidence that demonstrate that. And now, as we have scientific evidence that feelings and emotions impact the immune system, we also have evidence that talking therapies such as hypnosis can affect feelings and emotions. So if you take that full circle, we could say, well, there is actually evidence that hypnosis can affect the immune system. Now, we're not going to say it can affect it enough to cure cancer or do that, but we can certainly do experimental stuff that may aid the journey in that way. But again, we have to be very careful. It's got to be experimental, and it's got to be for the patient's psychological well-being. Otherwise, we're getting into to sort of dodgy ground. But the other reason that the 1939 Cancer Act is useful is some of the things that people believe is quite worrying. For example, people that are undergoing the cancer journey, they will panic. They will jump at anything and pay any money that you get asked for if they think there's going to be a cure. Uh, there are snake oil salesmen out there. They're desperate. And one of the worrying things that I came across, the American Society of Clinical Oncology did a survey of 4,000 adults. 25% of those actually had cancer. And their findings found that 40% of them agreed that cancer could be cured by oxygen, diet, and herbs alone, with no other treatment. And half of those thought that cancer could be cured by complementary therapies and nothing else. Now, the worrying thing of that is that if you just use alternative therapies, it actually doubles the mortality rate. And in early stage cancer, that increases it 6 times. So basically, if you're just advocating complementary therapy and nothing else, your patient's got 6 times more likely to die in early stage cancer. So it's not a very clever thing to advocate, in my opinion. So we do not treat cancer.
And I think it's important to make that crystal clear, just because when people, probably could be a loved one, family member, or themselves, get that cancer diagnosis, there is that tendency to kind of wish for some kind of magic wand to kind of make everything better, and desperate people do desperate things, which is obviously why there's these charlatans out there that take advantage of that. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying in terms of the psychoimmunology response, because I look at cortisol as the stress hormone, adrenaline as the anxiety hormone, and typically a body with lots of those hormones is in an immediate kind of survival state, not in this kind of healing state. So it kind of makes a lot of sense that the emotions have an impact on the kind of, let's say, biochemistry that can have an impact, which I think that's a very rational thing. And it's good that people are studying that more. So given that you've been very clear, the hypnosis is not there to treat the cancer. You specialize in hypno-oncology. Where do you find hypnosis to be most beneficial on those people that are on that cancer journey?
Really, through the whole journey. And I always say that, to me, hypno-oncology is hypnotic inventions for the cancer journey. And it is. So we start with people from the initial diagnosis. So there's all the fear, the panic, the psychological issues that come with that. So we tend to work with that. We then would potentially work with fears and phobias. People might be fearful of going into a scanner, or fearful of having a needle injected into them. So we would work with those, which is pretty sort of standard hypnotherapy stuff, if you like. An area that I did my studies in was obviously looking at pre-surgical hypnosis. That is a very good area, pre and post-surgical hypnosis. As I mentioned, the Royal College of Anaesthetists now actually advocate pre-surgical hypnosis because they've seen that it does give a fast recovery quality, both physically and psychologically. Unfortunately, they don't call it hypnosis, but essentially that's what it is. So that's a big area. Probably the biggest area that I tend to work with in hospital is actually the side effects of treatment. So people perhaps pain control obviously is the biggest area of complementary therapy research with hypnosis. There's numerous amounts of evidence that show that hypnosis is probably the best complementary therapy for pain control, and so I do a lot of pain control. But it's all other side effects as well. We would work with things like anticipatory nausea. We would deal with hot flushes. We would deal with diet issues and eating problems, sleep issues, and all the emotions perhaps that go around that. Then, and quite often, it's a bit of an eye opener for people for changing other things in their life if they're going through a cancer journey. It's a bit of a wake up call. So we would then perhaps work on things going there. Sadly, we do work with palliative care at times. For myself, that's not an area that I do a huge amount of, because being in the UK, we have a very good sort of hospice setup. So obviously, the terminal patients tend to go from hospital down the hospice route, whereas I'm purely hospital based. So although I will see people for palliative care, it's not normally very end of life, because they would tend to move on to the hospice environment, which I'm not involved in. So I would tend to do some palliative care, and just sort of following up from there, other life things, and moving them forward. So pretty much the whole journey, which is why I always advocate a hypno-oncology. So to me, it's hypnotic interventions for the cancer journey from beginning to end. Whether the end is unfortunately death, or whether the end is cure and continuing with life.
And there's certain journeys that, even if you've had no experience with, let's say, an elderly relative or family member going through cancer, intuitively we get this sense that it is a very intense, terrifying, perhaps even tragic kind of journey, where that roller coaster, the highs are very high and the lows are very low. It doesn't get much more intense than that. Everything, I imagine, is amplified. Could you give an example of maybe a client that you've worked with, just to give people a peek into your world of how you working with them had some kind of impact on their quality of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the best examples was my research, and I like the research side of things because we've got the evidence to back it up. And what was interesting from my research was the number of letters and emails that I actually got from the patients that were involved in the research. Now, we weren't asking for that. That was extra stuff, qualitative data. We were purely looking from scientific statistically. And statistically, we found that the patients that underwent the hypnosis, the pre-surgical hypnosis, had a far better psychological recovery. But interestingly, we found they had a better physical recovery as well. They were actually perceiving that they were feeling less pain. And when we dug down, we found that not only were they perceiving they were in less pain, but they were actually taking less pain medication than the group that didn't have hypnosis. And it was interesting that probably about 70% of people that I actually worked with as part of the research actually wrote to me to thank me on the impact that it actually had on their operation and their recovery. They all felt that it got them through the surgery and the journey much better than they ever thought was possible. And they thought that the work we done, they thought that did give them a faster healing quality. It did assist them with pain and dealing with everything that was going on. So I think that was probably the thing that I enjoy most, because we've got the letters from them and the emails from them, but we've also got the scientific basis behind it that we can evidence.
And I think that's important, because when you just look at numbers, it takes the human element out. And one of the most satisfying things of what I do as being a hypnotherapist is seeing those letters, those messages, those comments, because then you realize that it's not just random people in the world, it's real people that getting real impact from the kind of work that we do, which is incredible stuff.
I mean, another great case history, I think, which is I always, because obviously rather sadly with what I do, I've got some case histories that are very sad. But I've also got some very nice ones, and probably the one that inspires me most that I liked was a lady that I worked with a number of years ago. Now she was in her late 20s, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer, but was told that they thought it was low level. It would be keyhole surgery, and she would carry on pretty much as normal. Now, this lady had a very active lifestyle. She was into parachuting and all sorts of dangerous sports and so on and so forth. They took her in for the keyhole surgery. When they opened her up, they discovered that there was a lot of things that hadn't shown on scans, and it had actually spread quite significantly. They decided that they needed to severely operate at that point. So they removed the whole of her colon pretty much. They had to give her a colostomy to get at everything. They had to break all of her ribs on one side. So when she came round, she was in a huge amount of pain, a huge amount of shock, because she hadn't expected any of that. They decided to give her heavy doses of chemotherapy. And rather unfortunately, she was one of the few people that reacted very badly against it, in the fact that she died a couple of times and had to be resuscitated. After she got resuscitated for the second time, she was in a huge amount of pain, huge amount of shock, couldn't sleep, all sorts of other things. And they asked me to go and see her on the ward, whether I would work with her on the ward. Which I don't do a huge amount on. I have sort of the outpatients will come and see me, or people would come down from the ward to my office, but it's unusual that I work by the bedside unless I'm doing pre-surgical hypnosis, because it's not the most ideal environment doing something by a hospital bed. It tends to be quite noisy and a lot of interruptions. But I was asked whether I'd go and work with her in a hospital bed. So I worked with some pain control. We worked on the emotional impact of what had gone on. We then worked on the sleep. So we worked on a number of things there. Then she got well enough that she started coming down to see me, and I worked with her as an outpatient. She then left hospital, but still come back to see me, and again we were working on a number of things moving forward. Anyway, then I didn't hear from her for a couple of years, and the last time I saw her, she actually came to me, nothing to do with the cancer stuff, but she came to me for sports performance, wanting me to help her to improve her triathlon performances.
That is
So
amazing.
I think that's a pretty good one.
It's always good when you run into a client after a while, because there is that open loop of, oh,
Yeah.
wonder what happened to them, and then just to kind of see the level of progress that has continued is an amazing thing. You very kindly offered to do a hypnosis session aimed at perhaps someone in the early stages of the cancer journey. Maybe they've just been diagnosed, maybe they've it's been a surprise, unexpected, whatever it might be. And you talked about stabilization. So before you do the session, if you want to kind of explain what the session is about and who it's aimed at and for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I advocate in hospital, I tend to get two types of patients, cancer patients, really. The first one is what I call an emergency intervention, where that would be somebody that perhaps has just had the diagnosis and they've had a full-blown panic attack. Quite often, it's somebody that might be going into a scanner or into having chemotherapy. So there's the needle phobia. A really big one is actually head and neck cancers, where they actually have a mask fitted and cast to them, and that freaks rather a lot of people out. So we would have emergency interventions where we need to go in straight in that situation, because obviously if they're having a panic attack and they're due treatment, they're going to miss their slot, and that causes all sorts of problems. So we would go in and do emergency things that might be submodality techniques. It might be EFT, EMDR, and a number of other things that we can do. But for other patients that I tend to see, unusually compared to doing private hypnotherapy work, in a hospital, if I see a patient, I don't know what they're coming to see me for until they actually come and see me. So I'm going in blind until they come through my door. So they could be coming for numerous things. But the first thing that I advocate we should do as hypnotherapists is not, unless you're doing an emergency intervention, for anything else, you need to stay, or even with an emergency intervention, the idea is to stabilize the patient, is to stabilize them, if you like, to population norm. So they're calm, they're relaxed. Then you can discuss things with them clearly. Then you can put treatment protocols together or approaches that you're going to work with them on whatever the issue is. So I always advocate that stabilization is the first thing you need to do. The majority of the people that I see at the first time anyway, because they are going through the cancer journey, because they've perhaps given a diagnosis and so on, they tend to have a number of negative emotions that are prevalent. The most common negative emotions, and again, the negative emotions I would find out in the pre-talk, but typically the most common three negative emotions that I would find in a cancer patient, particularly if they're fairly new in the journey, number one would be fear, number two would be anxiety, and number three, interestingly, is inadequacy, whether they feel inadequate of what they need to do and their part in the journey. So that is because the patient, I don't know what they're there for until they come through my door. I would tend to do a stabilization technique that would generally address those particular three emotions, or three or four emotions of their choice that I've come up with through the case history and the pre-talk. Now, again, I was always advocate with a cancer patient. I would generally advocate an induction of sort of a muscle relaxation, so a progressive muscle relaxation. I know that doesn't seem to be seen as very sexy in the industry nowadays. Everybody wants the fastest, quickest, whizziest inductions. But to me, we know it works. It works on the majority of people. Now, we know that relaxation isn't required for hypnosis. That's another myth that a lot of people have. It's focused attention really is the only thing that you need. But relaxation is pleasant. A cancer patient is a cog in a wheel. They're going through a journey. They might be, when they come in to see you, they might be seeing the oncologist that day. They might be having a scan that day. They might be having some chemotherapy that day. So they're already at a heightened emotional state anyway. So it's nice for them to have some me time. And that me time, to me, it consists of a progressive muscle relaxation, because it's a nice way to get them. And the number of patients that I have come in to see me when I mention about it, they all say to me, "Oh, I never relax, and I'm so heightened at the moment. There's no way I'll relax," and so on. And after the session, they just look at me and said, "Oh, that was wonderful. I felt so relaxed. I haven't felt like that for a long time." So I would tend to use a progressive muscle relaxation as an induction, um, any deepener of your choice. But I have a technique for stabilization, and I call it the golden sack technique. And it's a dissociative technique. And the idea behind it is that we would look at the specific emotions and then give the patient a choice of what they're going to do with that emotion. If they feel that it's something that's too big and they can't deal with it at the moment, we give it a level of dissociation by putting it in this imaginary sack, and it will just stay there until they're ready to deal with it, but it's not affecting them at the moment. Or if they feel that they can actually deal with it, then they can imagine it disintegrating or dissipating inside the sack. So therefore, it's not having an impact on them anyway. Now, I would tend to do those perhaps three emotions, and then I would perhaps do a sort of a general catch-all for them to choose anything else that they might want to. And then I would typically finish that type of session off with some sort of ego strengthening. Again, a pretty standard one known to a lot of hypnotherapists is a healing white light technique. So that would be my pretty much standard go-to for a first hypnotherapy session with a cancer patient. So it would be progressive muscle relaxation, golden sack anxiety release with some ego strengthening, and that would be typically it.
Perfect. Well, thanks for giving us the intro there. We're all primed, ready to go. Obviously, I'm not on that cancer journey, but I'm going to act as if I am to kind of go along with this. So I'm going to put my mic all the way down. The ball is in your court, and on today's episode.
Again, the way that I work with the patients, to get them nice and comfortable, there is no interaction with the patient as such. They haven't got to do anything. They haven't do any responses. Now, I did it originally. Perhaps give them a time of, I'll say, right, will you process this and let me know when you've done it? Some people do it quickly, some take a long time. And ideally, yes, that would be a way to go. But rather, unfortunately, being in hospital, I'm very constrained on time. Whereas with a private patient, I would typically have an hour, but I would allow sort of 15, 20 minutes between sessions to allow sort of delays and so on. In hospital, I get up to an hour, and that's including notes, filing, free stuff, welcoming them in, getting rid of them. And you tend to find in hospital they've come from another appointment, so quite often they're late or they can't park. So often you've got to get a session done in sort of 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, and that includes absolutely everything, pre-talks and notes and everything. So the only thing I did do it, and it's not ideal, is I now sort of give 30 seconds or 45 seconds or something like that until I move on to the next part of the script, rather than giving them the time to do it in their own time. I find that we just haven't got time to do that in hospital. So I time it now, which means that there's no actual interaction coming back from the patient, but due to that time constraint. In an ideal world, we would have feedback from them and give them as much time as they like.
Makes total sense to me. And obviously, if someone's sought this podcast episode out, maybe they have had a cancer diagnosis, or maybe a friend or family member have. Before we actually do the session, how can people reach out and find you or connect with you or even work with you?
Well, certainly, obviously, people in my hospital area can come and see me at the hospital. A lot of people don't realise, in the UK particularly, that hypnotherapy is very effective across Zoom, for example. Now, I work with cancer patients at the moment. I'm working with one in America, one in New Zealand, and so I work with cancer patients privately all around the world. So really, for both cancer patients and those hypnotherapists or people that are interested in knowing more, I do courses on hypno-oncology, both online and in person. I'm mentoring and so on. But information for absolutely everything is on the particular website, which is hypno-oncology.com. So again, hypno-oncology.com, and there's areas on there about training, about mentoring, about the patient working with me themselves. So that is your first sort of stop, if you like, hypno-oncology.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Garry, for sharing that. And thank you for being today's The Hypnotist. So over to you to start the session.
Okay. So thank you very much. So we'll just go through it as though, as you said, we're doing a real session, imagining that you're the patient in front of me. You'll be sat down in my hospital office in a nice comfortable chair. we will have done a pre-talk. So as it would have been the first session, typically I would have explained all about hypnotherapy, what it is, what it isn't, what we can do, what we can't do, how we do it, why we do it, etc. We would have done an intake form. We've discussed about their journey and what's happening, and now we will do the session. So we will move on from there. So typically, as I said, we're going to start with a progressive muscle relaxation, and we'll just move into everything else as we go. So I'd like you to just get yourself very comfortable and just close your eyes. And I'd like you to close your eyes and think of something pleasant. We're going to relax both the mind and the body. So I'd like you to think of something pleasant. And I'd like you to think of a place. I'd like you to think of a place where you'd feel safe, where you'd feel comfortable, where you could feel relaxed. Now, this could be a place where where you could live. It could be a previous place, could be a childhood place, could be somewhere you visited, somewhere you'd like to visit. Could even be somewhere completely imaginary. Doesn't matter. Just anywhere where you'd feel safe, where you'd feel comfortable, where you could feel relaxed. And I'd like to make anything and everything about this place. I'd like to make it stronger, more realistic, more enjoyable, so you can really enjoy that experience. Now, some people are really good at visualizing, really good at imagining. And if that's the case, I'd like to make anything and everything about this place. I'd like you to make it stronger, more realistic, more enjoyable. So if there are any images, make them clearer. Make them clearer, make them sharper, make them more detailed. Perhaps any colours, you can make any colours brighter, more vivid. Perhaps there may be sounds. If there are any sounds, perhaps you could enhance them, make them meaningful, understandable. Perhaps there may be pleasant smells, scents, tastes. Again, if so, enhance them, enjoy them. But in particular, any really good feelings, any positive emotions, I'd like you to really build on those, enhance them, strengthen them. I'd like you to strengthen, build them, and make them as powerful as you possibly can, and bring them back with you so you can enjoy that experience. And at the same time, I'd like you to systematically begin to relax the whole of your body, just starting with your feet and your ankles. And I'd like you to become aware of those muscles and relax them. Now, it's quite a strange thing, but once you've deliberately become aware of muscles and you've deliberately relaxed them, you find that actually you can relax them even more. Now, I'd like you to imagine the concept of relaxation in a really strange way. And that is, I'd like you to imagine the concept of relaxation as being like a warm, flowing liquid. It moves around the body, relaxing muscles as it comes into contact with them. Now, some people say that they can actually sense the warmth of the relaxation as it moves around the body, relaxing the muscles. Others say that they don't feel any warmth, but they do think they can feel a very subtle, pleasant tingling sensation occasionally as the muscles relax. And others say they don't actually feel anything at all. They just have an awareness. They have an awareness of the relaxation doing its job. They have an awareness of the fact they are deliberately relaxing muscles. So therefore, they're aware of those muscles having become relaxed. So I'd like you to imagine, whatever you need to imagine what it might feel like if this beautiful warm relaxation were beginning to seep into your body through the balls of your feet. Perhaps you could imagine it flowing into the toes and the ankles, relaxing the muscles there. Perhaps you could imagine what it might feel like if it were to flow further, slowly up from the ankles into the calf muscles, relaxing those muscles as it passes by. Perhaps you could imagine it flowing further, perhaps slowly up the back of the legs, past the knees, perhaps into the thigh muscles, just relaxing all those muscles as it passes by. And as it passes by, it's now moving all around the legs, and perhaps you can sense a very subtle hint of warmth when the muscles relaxed. Or perhaps there's no warmth, perhaps there's just a very subtle, pleasant tingling sensation as the muscles relax. Or again, perhaps you're the sort of person that doesn't feel anything physical there at all. Perhaps it's just an awareness of the relaxation doing its job, and an awareness of the individual muscles relaxing. And I don't know which of your legs will be the first to relax completely, but you may find the more you allow the legs to relax, the heavier they're going to gradually appear to become to you. The more you relax them, the heavier they're going to gradually appear to become. In fact, it may be the whole of the body starts to feel heavier and heavier, almost as though you begin to sink deeper and deeper down into the comfortable chair. Then perhaps being aware of the muscles in the lower abdomen and stomach regions, being aware of those muscles and relaxing them. And then becoming aware of the muscles in the chest, relaxing those muscles and just making a few slow, deep breaths. Let it slow, deep breath. Let it relax you even more. Perhaps be aware of the muscles in the shoulders. That's an area that holds tension, stress, burdens, anxieties, but Not here, not today, not at this moment in time. This moment in time, nobody wants anything, nobody needs anything. This is time for you. Time for you to let go, to relax, let any tension in the shoulders let it dissolve away, dissipate away, being replaced by that wonderful feeling of peace and relaxation flowing in. Tense the muscles in the arms, and imagine relaxation flowing gently down the arms, into the hands, into the fingers. Sensing the muscles in the neck. That's another area that holds tension, stress, burdens, anxieties. But again, not here, not today, not at this moment in time. Again, at this moment in time, nobody wants anything, nobody needs anything. This is time for you. Time for you to let go, to relax. Let any tension in the neck, let it dissolve away, dissipate away, and replaced by that wonderful feeling of peace and relaxation flowing in. Being aware of all the muscles now in the face and the forehead and the top of the scalp. Perhaps being aware of the muscles in the jaw. Imagine the muscles in the jaw softening, lengthening, calming, relaxing. Perhaps imagine what it would feel like to have the muscles around the eyes and the cheekbones just being gently massaged, helping you to relax. And even the muscles of the forehead and top of the scalp. But the whole of the body is just gradually becoming more and more relaxed, deeper and deeper relaxed. And I'd like you to imagine that from now on, every breath that you make is spreading that wonderful feeling of relaxation throughout the whole of your body. So just imagine, from now on, every breath that you make is spreading that wonderful feeling of relaxation throughout the whole of your body, enabling you to become more and more relaxed, deeper and deeper relaxed with every breath that you take. In a strange way, too, the sound of my voice is part of the feeling of relaxation. It's calming, it's soothing, it's safe, it's relaxing. So just imagine what it might feel like if you were just floating pleasantly in a mist of drowsiness, feeling tranquil, safe, serene, and wonderfully peaceful. In a moment, you're going to hear me start to count down from 10 to 1. Now, with each descending number, I'd like you to allow yourself to become even more relaxed. I'd like you to allow yourself to sink deeper and deeper down into a wonderful, pleasant, trance-like state of complete mental and physical relaxation. With each descending number, you will sense yourself becoming even more relaxed. You will sense yourself sinking deeper and deeper down into a wonderful trance-like state of complete mental and physical relaxation. 10, 9, deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. 8, deeper still, letting your mind wander and relax. 7, drifting. 6, going deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. 5, becoming so relaxed now. 4, even deeper, that's nice. 3, going deeper and deeper down. 2, drifting. And 1, becoming totally relaxed, totally relaxed. And as you just allow yourself to go ever more deeply into a wonderful, calm, serene state, you're going to find that your mind wanders, and that's fine. Because wherever you go, wherever your mind goes, my voice will go with you, will travel along with you. Maybe even become the voice of someone else. Someone can relate to that, that's fine. You'd always be able to continue to respond to me on an unconscious level, no matter where you are. And any other sounds apart from my voice will, in a strange and contradictory way, will enable you to become even more relaxed and more attentive to the sound of my voice. And just imagine yourself relaxing comfortably in your special place, and just imagine enjoying feelings of comfort and safety, because there's nothing for you to do apart from relax. This is your time. Nobody wants anything, nobody needs anything. This is time for you. Time for you to let go and relax. Now, in your imagination, I want you to create a golden sack, perhaps the type of sack that a magician might use to make things disappear on stage. Now, this golden sack's lined with a beautiful purple velvet. It's got a wooden toggle on a string to hold it tightly shut, and the sack is made of very high quality material. It's very strong, but yet still soft to the touch. Perhaps you can imagine feeling it with your fingers and hold it in your hands. Now, the sack's empty at the moment, so it feels very light. Now, the golden sack's got a strange magical quality to it. You can put things into the sack, and depending on how you feel, The things can remain in the sack or they can disintegrate, they can disappear with no effort at all. It just depends on your own thoughts and how you wish them to be at the moment. And for some time now, you may have been bothered with troublesome negative thoughts or feelings, and in this safe place of yours, we can take out those thoughts and feelings one by one, and we can examine them. And if you feel that those thoughts or feelings aren't appropriate for you right now, you can place them in the golden sack and they'll remain there safely until you're ready to deal with them. However, if you feel that you never need those feelings, thoughts again, then they're going to disintegrate rapidly inside the sack. Now, only you can decide on their fate because it's you that's in control. Now, my job is to assist you in mentioning particular feelings and emotions to you that you may wish to retain or destroy. And your job will be to decide if they should go into the sack. And if they do, you can decide what happens to them. So the first thing I want you to examine is fear. If you have any feelings of fear of any kind, whether it's for a situation, an object, a person, a place, or anything else, I want you to hold it up to the light of day and ask yourself, do I really need this fear? Is it serving a useful purpose in my life? How would I feel without that fear? Can I let it go now, or should I hold on to it and deal with it at a later date? And only you can answer the questions in your own safe place, and you can make sound decisions on what to do, guided by your amazing unconscious mind, the part of you that knows everything there is to know about you. So if you're happy to live with fear, keep it. On the other hand, you feel you've had enough and decide it's time to get rid, then simply put it in the silver sack. And I'm going to give you a few moments to decide and do whatever you need to decide or do. That's good. So the next thing we're going to examine is anxiety. If you have any feelings of anxiety of any kind, whether it's again for a situation, an object, a person, a place, or anything else, I want you to hold that up to the light of day and ask yourself, do I really need this feeling of anxiety? Is it serving a useful purpose? How would I feel without it? Can I let that go now, or should I hold on to that anxiety and deal with that at a later date? And again, only you can answer the questions from your own safe place, making a sound decision on what to do, guided by your inner mind, that the amazing unconscious part of you knows everything there's to know about you. So if you're happy to live with anxiety, keep it. On the other hand, you've had enough, decide it's time to get rid, then simply put it in the golden sack. And again, I'm going to give you a few moments to decide and do what you have to do. That's excellent. Now, the next thing I want to examine is feelings of inadequacy. Any feelings of being inadequate, again, in any situation or with any person or place or anything else, hold that up to the light of day and ask yourself, do I really need these feelings of inadequacy? Are they serving a useful purpose in my life? How would I feel without them? Could I let those go now, or should I hold on to those and deal with those at a later date? Again, only you can answer the questions from your safe place, make sound decisions what to do, guided by your amazing mind. So if you're happy to live with feelings of being inadequate, keep them. If you feel you've had enough, decide it's time to let them go, simply place them in the golden sack. Again, I'm going to give you a few moments to decide and do what you have to do. That's good. Now, maybe other feelings that you'd like to examine, perhaps feelings of powerlessness or being let down. There might be certain other fears or anxieties you'd like to get rid of, but whatever they are, I want you to examine them now and decide in your own special time and place whether you'd like to keep those feelings, emotions, anxieties, and negative thoughts. And if you do, that's fine. But if not, place them into the golden sack. And I'm just going to give you a few moments to decide that for now, you've dealt with those negative factors in your life. That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, I want you to know that if at any time after this session you should remember a feeling and an emotion that you no longer want, you can examine it. And if you don't want it, simply place it in the golden sack. And it's now time. It's now time to finish off. It's time to close up the sack by pulling the drawstring tight. And I want you to imagine feeling the weight of the sack now. Imagine feeling the weight of the sack now. And if there are negative feelings or emotions that you've decided to leave to deal with at a later date, the sack might be quite heavy at the moment. But if you've decided to be rid of those negative feelings, emotional thoughts once and for all, then your sack's going to be really light. And I want you to place the sack somewhere safe. I want you to place somewhere safe at the back of your mind, in your special place, where if you need it again, you can find it easily, and you can use it again, for it's yours. You can use it whenever you wish to feel free and happy again. And sometimes, if you think of a thought that you no longer want, all you need to do is replace that thought with the words golden sack and imagine those negative thoughts jumping right into your sack, allowing you to feel fine again really quickly. But there might be other times when you feel that you need to do something to examine them first and then decide what to do. Now, your unconscious mind interacts with both your conscious mind and your physical body. Now, it naturally and seamlessly affects your conscious mind and your physical body. And I'd like your unconscious mind to understand and to realize that you've got many things to be pleased and proud about. There have been times when you've achieved things, helped and behaved kindly to others. You've thought wonderful selfless thoughts. You've carried out unselfish deeds. And as your mind starts once again to access the memories, all the fine aspects of you, allow yourself to feel good, to recognize your humanity, your kind-heartedness, your sensitivity, the feeling human parts of your being. And I want you to imagine a small but very powerful spark of strong white light beginning to form deep in the very center, the very core of your body. Imagine seeing or sensing this powerful white light spreading slowly outwards to your skin and beyond for a meter or a yard or so that it produces an invisible, protective, shining aura around the whole of your body. And I want you to imagine sensing, seeing, or even hearing that pure white light starting to cleanse your body of all negativity, all the doubts, all the fears, all the anxieties, physical and mental. And begin to feel too a surge of powerful energy as a new positive energy transforms your body and your mind. So you immediately begin to feel physically stronger. You're going to feel fitter in every way. Your mind is going to become more alert, naturally allowing you to cope better with life, becoming calmer and so much more confident. So from now on, you will have a greater control over your life. You've got a wonderfully relaxed, calming sense of well-being. And I want your unconscious to know this is a new and improved version of yourself, a new representation of yourself, a new version that can replace the earlier one. This new version is more confident, yet so calm and relaxed that success comes quite naturally. You want to feel that lovely, powerful energy and let it bring a state of mind of being able to achieve absolutely anything that you want in life. Now, all these suggestions, they're going to permeate, they're going to get stronger, they're going to get more powerful by the day, by the hour, by the minute. And as all these suggestions permeate, become more powerful, in a short time, we're going to finish off this particular session. And we always finish off in a traditional way, and that is you're going to hear me count from 1 to 10. With each number, you're going to feel more alert, more refreshed, more awake. With the count of 8, opening your eyes, and the count of 10 in your own time, feeling fully alert and refreshed once more. Every part will be back here with me in the present. All normal sensations will return to all of your limbs. And you're going to have a feeling of well-being all over, perhaps feeling more positive, more optimistic than you've felt in a long, long time. So, ready now. 1, 2, 3, becoming more alert, more awake, more refreshed. 4, 5, 6. Just finishing off in your own time. 7, 8, eyes opening. Then 9 and 10, feeling fully alert and refreshed in your own time once more. Back with us.
That was really good. Really good.
Excellent. Okay. Now, that would be to me what I would call a pretty standard stabilization session for an initial session with a patient.
No, I love that. And there's a few things that I just found reminder that I don't really use them. Strange and contradictory, that takes you deep, kind of manipulating distractions. I've not done that in a while. I need to start integrating that. And I actually use suitcases for the disassociation of. So when you mentioned the golden sack, it was good because I was picturing that kind of almost like a velvet, kind of magician sack, and it was really good. Really enjoyed that. So remind us again, Garry, if someone wants to work with you directly or find out more about you, where can they go for more information?
The easiest place is my website, which is www.hypno-oncology or -oncology, depending on which part of the world you're in. So hypno-oncology.com. And on there, as we mentioned, we've got live and online training, we've got mentoring, but also options to work with patients throughout the world. There's also USB training, there's also a script book, and lots of other information. And obviously people can email me via there as well if they want to find out anything more
Amazing.
about Hypno-Oncology.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.